Hello all, this is a continuation of the previous video that we talked about, and I'll show you in a while. In today's video, we'll talk about how you can enable SSL certificate or set up SSL certificate in your Business Central on-premise environment. So before you start this, if you haven't seen the previous video, I would highly encourage you to the, go and watch this video, which is set up credential type new user password in Business Central on-premise. Because whatever we have done in this video is kind of the prerequisite for this particular video. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll add the link in the description for this video. Okay, so quick recap of what we have done. If you notice right now, my user account that's running it is a nav username password named as Dhani, and you can just check it. It might be different on the previous recording. I had to delete that database for some reason, but I'm not using my Windows account. I'm using my username password account, and you can check it here that it's not attached to a Windows account. It surely have a password assigned to it. So we have already set this up. What we did is we created a new user, assigned it the right permissions, then we updated the service tier with the credential type. We restarted the service tier and then we change on the web server setting. Today what we'll be doing is we'll be generating a certificate and then assigning that certificate so that instead of using this HTTP, we'll use HTTPS so that you don't see your connection to this site isn't secure, but we'll try to get it secure. Now for the demo, what I'll be doing is I'll be using a self-signed certificate, and in a production environment you should obtain a SSL certificate from a certification authority. uh, there are some organizations that they might have their own certification authorities, and for other they can purchase a SSL certificate from third party organization. For the testing and the demo, or for the purpose of this video, I'll be using a self-signed certificate. If you don't know about SSL, it's a web protocol that encrypts data that is transmitted over a network to make the data and the network more secure and reliable. On your banking website and wherever the data need to be secured, you would have noticed that it's an HTTPS rather than an HTTP. So we'll be trying that. So without going further detail about SSL, let's come back in to our business central discussion. And so the first thing that we need is to set up a certificate, a you know a certificate for testing. The easiest way to do it, which I learned just today maybe, is go to your ISS, which is Internet Information Services Manager. On your server name, there you see the server certificate in the IIS section. Click on that. You might see some of the certificate that your company might be using, but you can always create a self-signed certificate here, and that automatically creates a certificate based on your server name or your computer name. Once you click on that, it asks you for a friendly name, and I'll say it for my demo. This is my demo SSL. Okay, and then I'll store it on a personal account and click OK, and that's it. You get a certificate here, as simple as that. Now moving forward, what we need to do is we need to change some parameter in the service tier as we did in the past video, and then we also have to change something on the web config. So let's try doing that, and let me open my business central 220 folder. Here I am, and in this I'll head up to the service folder, and then because I'm doing it on my default instance, I'll be going to my custom setting.config, which is here. If you are doing it on an instance, then look for a folder called instances somewhere here, and then inside that look for your custom setting.config. So based on are you using the default service tier or you are doing it on a custom service tier that you have built, you can choose the right custom setting.config file. As I'm doing it for the default, I'll pick this one and I'll open this on VS Code. Now we are just opening it here to see what things we need to change, and then we'll use PowerShell to change it. So the first thing when you are using a certificate, that there is a certificate property, uh, certificate thumbprint. So here in the service certificate thumbprint property, the certificate thumbprint for the certificate need to be added here so that the service tier understand it. The certificate thumbprint for X09 certificate is going to be used for authentication. The certificate is required to be stored on local computer personal folder, which we did, if you remember, on the personal folder in the certification store, and the private key of the certificate must need to be present. Depending on the setting, the certification can either be self-signed or issued by a trusted CA. To issue a self-signed certificate, you can do following. There is a command. If you want to run it, you can do that like this, or you can use a simple method that I have told you. You can optionally protect the private key with a password. The password during exchange and import export transaction. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is assign the thumbprint or define the thumbprint in this area. And then we also need to set the SSL enabled. Enabled? Yes. Client services SSL enabled. That allows my client services to be SSL enabled. If you would like to be your other services like OData and SOAP, you can also set these to true. And for that, the thumbprint is important. So the first thing that we need to do is set up, find the thumbprint and assign it on our service tier, and then we need to enable at least the client service SSL enabled. Okay. So let's keep this minimized and let's go back to our IIS. So here you can view the certificate, and in the certificate you will see that in the detail section there's a last property called, or second last property called thumbprint. In your case, if there are spaces which used to happen in the past, you need to copy this value, open your notepad, and I'm doing it here, paste it here. If there are spaces, remove those spaces. In some versions of Windows, you will see spaces generated between the thumbprint, and if they are there, remove them. If you look on my older blogs of NAV 2017, where I set it up the uh, SSL, you will notice that I'm manually removing those spaces. But for this license or this certificate, I didn't needed those, so I got it here. So I'll close this and go back to my here, and instead of doing it here, you should never do it here. I just found it out that if you manage your services by manually changing it here, it corrupts sometime your services, which happened to me today. So I'll go ahead and try the safer way, which is using the administration panel or PowerShell. I'll do my importing of the module, my service in central 220 service.ps1. Okay, that's done. Now let's set service properties. Okay, what I want to do is set nav server configuration, which is modifying my service. For which server? BC220 is my server, and then the key that I would like to change is service certificate thumbprint. Okay, and the key value is whatever is in my notepad. Okay, so that will set my key. The other thing that I told you earlier is what we'll do is nav server app configuration server instance BC220 key name is equals to my client service SSL enabled, and I would like to change it to true. Key value true. If you have to do OData and all, you can just search for those. I'm not going to do that, but if you have to, you can just search for those and set those also to true or data. Okay, so if you need to, I'm just adding them, I'll not run them. You can run them like this, just here, and there's no harm of doing it. I'm just not doing it because I'm not using them, but if you have to, you can set it by using these two properties. As we have changed something on property, what I'll have to do is I'll have to restart my service. So restart, and maybe it's not visible, so let me zoom this in. Okay, restart nav. Okay, restart nav server instance PC220. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select all these. Let's do it all in one go, and let's run this. So as this is happening, the okay, what it is saying, nav server app config, where I did the nav. Oh, okay, sorry, stop. It is, I copied it incorrectly. It should be nav config. Okay, you should not believe intelligence sometime. Okay, so right now I'm just changing these two settings and restarting my service tier. As soon as that happens, my custom setting.config behind the scene that you are seeing should get updated with these values, and I think it should have been. Okay, let's search for thumbprint. If you notice, that property has been set, and same for client service SSL enable is set to true. So I haven't modified that file manually, but based on the service tier, it kind of got updated by running these PowerShell commands. Okay, so as this restart will happen, we will notice that this change has been done. Now let's think about what we'll have to change on the web server side, because we surely will have to change something on my web server config. So while this is happening, let me go back to my CINET pub www root and my service or the web server instance name. And as I showed you earlier, we'll look for our nav settings.json. Let's open that up in our VS Code again. Let's search for what we want to do here. So here it says that server HTTPS, if business central instance is setting client service SSL enable, which we have done, uh, set to true, then this setting must also be set to true, which is server HTTPS. So one thing is very clear, that I need to set the server HTTPS to true. Then let's see. Okay, we have already set this up. Okay, service console download, require SSL. Specify whether the SSL HTTPS is required. If the value is set to true, all the cookies will be marked with attribute. So we need to set the require SSL to be true. And third and the last thing is DNS identity, which is the subject name for the server certificate. So we need to set three properties: DNS identity, require SSL, and server HTTPS. So we know that. So let's hop into our here, and as we have done that, let's set up the set web server config. So set web server configuration, and web server instance is again BC220 for my case. And then again there are the two things: key name, and let me copy this. I know I have to do three, so let's do that. So the first key name is server HTTPS. Okay, the second key name is require SSL. Okay, and third and the last is DNS identity. Okay, now here the key value is true. Same applies for the second one. But what about my DNS identity. So DNS identity, when you read the detail here, the subject name of the server certificate. So let's go back to IIS viewer certificate, and in there it says the what it said, the subject name. Okay, so let's search for the subject name here. Subject name is my name, Sdhani. Okay, so let's set that up, that my subject name is Sdhani. So let's set that property here, Sdhani. Okay, so with this, my web server should also get updated and it should be running at that moment. So let's run this. No settings has been updated. Let's quickly check. DNS identity is set. Require SSL is set to true, and also my server HTTPS is set to true. So I should be all good at this moment. Let's go back and do one last thing. So you have created a certificate, but you haven't binded that certificate with your website. And that's the last step. So go to your root folder of your web client in your IISS, which is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central web client. In there, go to the bindings on the right hand side. Once you click on bindings, you will notice that I already have it. So let me remove it. I might be trying it out. You will find this on your screen, which is HTTP 8080, which allows all the port. Then you need to click on add and choose your HTTPS. The port number will automatically default to 443. And then here you need to choose your certificate. So I say my certificate is demo SSL and click OK. So now what you'll notice is when you come down to your BC220, there are two browse options, one for 8080, which is unsecure, and one is for 443, which is the secure one. So let's try to connect to both of them and see what happens. So first let me try 8080, and if everything goes good, it should not be running because I have changed my properties to run the secure way. Okay, so let me try running this, and now it says your connection is in private. Okay, continue unsafe, and here my name is this, and let me copy my password. First, does it allow me to log in is important, I guess. Sign in, and as we come here, let's see, will it allow me to get inside Business Central with my username and password? Even then, if you notice, my HTTPS says not secure. Okay, now what you need to do is change this localhost, because localhost is not considered the secure one, with your DNS name that you have used in your DNS identity. And let's run this. This time, if you notice, it became HTTPS and then your DNS name and then your URL. So let me try typing it, my name, and here let me try finding my password. So everything goes good. I should be on a secure HTTPS URL at this moment. Now I did not get an error message, but you might get an error message here because maybe I already had a binding done. What you need to do or remember is once you have done this, do one more thing. Go to your start menu and search for mmc.exe, which I'm doing it on my other screen, and that will run your mmc panel, which looks something like this. I'll ask you for authentication, do that. Then in here, go to the file menu and add or remove snap-in, and from that choose certificate, click add for the computer account and click next, and that's it. And once you hit OK, it'll load all your certificates in here. For that, I'll drag this here so that I can hide some columns. Okay, and then we can see what I'm doing here. Okay, So I've done that. What you'll notice is inside personal, when we created the certificate, if you remember the step one of IIS, we place it into personal. So you will see your certificate here. Right click on that, go to all task and click on manage private keys and make sure that you have set this up for the account that is used to run services. Should have permission for it. So like my service is running with the network service, which you should not be in a production environment. Make sure that account have the full rights on the certificate. And how you can check which account is running your services is go to your services.msc and search for your business central service, and you will notice who is the login to. So make sure this user have the rights to full control the certificate, and once that is, you will not get that error message which you typically get when you try to access the secure port. Okay. With this, you what we have done is we have configured our service tier with the NAV username password, and we have also attached a certificate for it which shows you that your connection is secure. But this is just for the demo purpose. Make sure that you purchase a certificate from a registered certified authority or third party that you have. Okay. Um, what else? Yes, on a production environment, you will set it up on your service tier, which should be publicly accessible, more or less. Once it is publicly accessible, you can use the same steps, not these steps, but accessing the client step on your tablet or on your phone client also. It'll allow you to access your tablet and phone client. Just FYI, SSL certificate are not only mandatory or not only suggested to be used for NAV username password, but you can also use it with your Windows authentication. So make sure that you have the SSL certificate if you would like to keep your data safe when it is accessible to the rest of the world in your on-premise environment. So before we leave for today, let's quickly see what we have done to achieve what we achieved today. We generated a certificate using IIS on your server name, and then clicking on the server certificate window, and inside there we just create the self-signed certificate which gave us a certificate. Then we updated our service tier by setting up the certificate thumbprint in the service and enabling the client service SSL enabled. If needed, optionally, you can set up the OData, SOAP development and other services with SSL, and we restart the service tier. That completed our part to changes need to be done on the service tier. Then on the web server config, we need to set three properties. One is the server HTTPS to true, require SSL to true, and DNS identity to the identity of your certificate, which typically will be your server name if you are doing it on your homegrown certificate or test environment. Let me know in comment section. Do you still have any questions on that? And the last thing, make sure that go to MMC and make sure that your service account have access to the private keys to access it with the full control. Okay. If you have any questions, drop it into the comment section. From my side, this topic is done. If you learned something new, please do share this video. If you're new to this channel, please do subscribe to this channel and press the bell notification so that you get notified, and share some love, share some thoughts, share some other suggestions. This is again coming from one of our oldest subscriber, and thank you for that idea, and because of you this video is here, and I'll see you in the next video sooner than later, as soon as possible. Thank you.